Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call to order the Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee. I'm joined by Vice Mayor Pastor and Councilwoman Stark. And I believe Councilman Valenzuela is on his way. First, we have the minutes of the meeting. The minutes are correct. The sign-in sheet, I believe, is the wrong one, so you will fix that.
Yes,
Okay.
Madam Chair. The sign-in sheet is the from a different subcommittee meeting, the Parks Subcommittee, but we will make sure to attach the correct sign-in sheet to those minutes.
But the minutes are correct.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have any discussion, amendments, or a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Consent items 2 and 3. Any questions? A motion?
Move item 2 and 3.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 4 is for information only. Anyone need more information?
When it says bike facilities, what does that mean?
Is that item
Is it
6?
Item 6.
Item,
It says on the title, bike facilities.
yes, Madam Chair, Vice Mayor, the item 6 is the approval for fiscal year 2022 for pavement maintenance of arterial major collector streets. When the arterial pavement maintenance is done, in some cases, as part of the striping, bicycle lanes can be added. Now, this would not be a case where a vehicle lane would be impacted, but this is a case where there might be some room to add a vehicle or a bicycle lane when putting the striping back on a new pavement. So if there's an overlay, then we would be restriping that street. And so as part of the process, we've identified the locations where those bike lanes could be installed.
So I heard two things. I heard added, and then I heard striping of current bike lanes. Which one is it? Or both?
It's both. So if there's bike lanes already there, they'll be, those stripes will remain. But in some cases where there's no bike lane today and they can be added, there's space to add the bike lane, that will be done at that time.
Okay. Could you please, I have, I guess where I'm at on the bike facilities is wanting to know if there's going to be neighborhood outreach on where you're adding new bike lanes. What is the process? Do we have a map or an outline as to where? I have the one with the arterial cracks, but as to where the bike facility implementation will be added. And I think that's attachment C.
Vice Mayor, within the packet is a list of all of the locations where the bicycle facilities would be installed. Can you have?
Know exactly
Yeah,
where
Madam Chair
attachments-
and Vice Mayor Pastor, the item here, as Mario mentioned, is for information only, and it's for fiscal year '22 pavement maintenance program. And the bicycle lanes that are in there are ones we've identified preliminarily as opportunities where we could add bike lanes or continue the bike lanes that are in existence right now. As far as any public outreach, we do have a process in place for public outreach related to bike lanes, and we would be doing that once we get closer to the date of implementation for these. And as I mentioned, this is for information only. We can use we're planning right now to be able to bring this item back for action next month, and we can definitely use the month in between to be able to outreach with your office, Vice Mayor, to make sure you feel comfortable with the items that are on there.
I'm just curious, only so I know to study this before an action item is there, but I can't find, I know where the arterial lanes are, but I can't find where the bike lanes are, but I can look at this later.
Okay. Because I have concerns about the bike lanes, because one thing we've learned, I'd rather not have them put in than have the neighbors call and you have to take them out. And we've had that happen. So I think it's very important that we have participation.
Understood.
Okay, I'll take that. Okay, do you have any? Then we will go to item 7, Key Corridors Master Plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, subcommittee members. This item is to move forward with hiring a consultant to conduct a study of citywide arterial streets and develop a key corridors master plan that helps guide strategic decisions about improvements to city streets and how to best incorporate multiple transportation modes into Phoenix's existing transportation systems. Staff will explain here shortly. The effort will integrate existing plans such as the Bicycle Master Plan, Transportation 2050, T2050, and the city's general plan, among others. The scope of work, it does include outreach to the community, and as well as seeking guidance from the city's boards and commissions and other advisory bodies like the Citizens Transportation Commission and the Complete Streets Advisory Board. Mark Melnichenko and Keeney Knudsen are here from the Street Transportation Department to provide an overview of what's being proposed.
Thank you, Mario. Madam Chair and committee members, we're very happy today to bring this exciting project to the committee. It is a project, as Mario talked about, is its main focus is to really prepare and refine a transportation vision for the city of Phoenix. And with that, we're looking at the function of the transportation corridors throughout the city, arterials and collectors, and helping define the primary and secondary functions of each one of those streets. We have freight corridors that are understudied with MAG in the city of Phoenix. We have the T2050 program that has high-capacity corridors and bus routes, et cetera, as part of the plan. So we really want to look at the function of these corridors and determine which will be primarily bike and ped related, which will be auto and transit, as for instance. So the focus will be on the arterial and collector streets throughout the city. With that, we are looking at integrating both the city and the regional planning initiatives. This is kind of a rainbow of all of the types of programs that we would be looking at: the Bike Master Plan, the T2050 program, as well as in close coordination with the Complete Streets Board, Complete Streets Program, as well as our other sister departments, future economic development opportunities. One of the other things that we would be looking at is our street class map. On that map, we have cross-sections throughout the city, and I think we would be looking as part of this process, how can we modify those to be more inclusive of other modes of transportation? As an example, we have a cross-section that has a 24-foot landscape median. Can we modify that to provide some protection on the side, say for bicyclists, which are already part of that cross-section? So we're looking to make better use of our existing right-of-way. We also, through this study, would be looking at the connection to key employment centers as well as areas for future study. This process will include a large, extensive public outreach process. We will have stakeholder involvement, webpage and online surveys, a technical advisory committee that will be made up of city staff from all of our affected departments. And then because this is a citywide process, we're looking to go to each of the villages and get, as a springboard with input from each of the village planning committees. And throughout this process, the major milestones, we would come and update the subcommittee at major milestones of the project. We've gone through a process of selecting a consultant, and Jacobs Engineering was selected through our process. And so we are requesting that the subcommittee recommend City Council approval to enter into an agreement with Jacobs Engineering Group at a cost not to exceed $450,000. As we said before, we will come back to the subcommittee and provide updates on major milestones with the project.
Yeah, going back to studying employment centers, so are you going to try to divide that up and look at what I would call more industrial, like the Amazons of the world, as you know, especially during the holidays? No one wants to be around the Amazon distribution center versus, let's say, an employment center like American Express. Are you going to drill down into it? Because I think that's important.
I think as we go through this process, we will refine that further about the specific employment centers that we'll be looking at. And I think that would be built through the kind of the layering of all the information from the various departments and the plans in place, the general plan, Reinvent Phoenix, et cetera. So I think we would better, more closely refine that as we move ahead.
I would also add that, as Mark mentioned, we'll be primarily working with Community and Economic Development Department and Planning Development Department as well on those locations, because not all employment centers are created equal.
Exactly.
And so we want to make sure we're accommodating how those workers or people are getting to and from those locations and what modes they use.
I just remember all the complaints they were good complaints, I guess, but all the complaints we get around the holidays in Amazon with the truck traffic, which is obviously different than business, like an office. So hopefully we look at that. And it may even have bearing on how the roads are constructed. I don't know, but I'm sure you'll look into that as you study it.
And I think as we build this plan, the key is to be very context sensitive of the areas, the districts, or the connection into the various village planning or village cores. So that is a key component of complete streets as well as what we're trying to achieve here.
Did you have a question, Vice Mayor?
It was regarding the employment centers. Could, I guess, give me an example of an employment center, because I think of re-engagement centers, but that's a whole nother world of where we're trying to re-engage people into employment or in the workforce, which that has been a hot topic because of transportation and the lack of transportation of most of these opportunity for youth and adults live in areas where transportation there's only one, say it's the bus, but they live in Maryvale and they're having to travel east just to get to an employment area. So I don't know, I know that the master plan is pretty big and pretty huge, but I think there's some dialogue in looking at it very holistically. My other challenge, and it's a challenge I think for all of us because we're in such a transitional period, that looking at the downtown and the master plan of the downtown area, once all these multifamily homes, I guess, or town, I don't know, multifamily housing is the term, are built, and the patterns of what we're doing into the downtown area to get to employment also. So I guess I'm assuming that Jacobs will be looking at all of this. It's a big task. So those are just tidbits.
I have a couple of ones I would want to make sure. The mayor has the new Bloomberg project on dealing with heat, and I think it's very important that that be included. Also, I want to make sure that you're actually looking at the new areas. You said the village planning committees, but you need to talk to the planning department because there are several things that are being initiated through planning and economic development, very large projects in new areas that have no streets. And I want to make sure that we have our streets extended to take care of the new traffic patterns. Don't dump it all on I-17. I just very worried that that's not going to be included, and I don't want a new plan to overlay on existing plans that still doesn't address what's on the cusp of being developed in this city. So I think that's very important. And I also would like to see you talk to our surrounding cities. Peoria has grown like crazy, and now Happy Valley Road has become a major thoroughfare. Heavy traffic, speeding, all kinds of problems, because that's where the people of Peoria, how they all get to I-17 now. And I don't know as we've looked at that in prior efforts, but talk to them, where else do they plan? Because they are growing very quickly northward. And I want to make sure that we're prepared when all that traffic gets dumped into Phoenix. And I'm sure the same thing happens at Scottsdale as it's growing northward. I don't know so much about the south, but I want you to really encompass those other cities and see what's on their drawing boards and make sure they're there. And of course, I want you to include businesses. If they're planning any expansions, maybe not necessarily just on the site they're at, but future expansion into other buildings, make sure that we incorporate that into what we're talking about. Councilman, did you have any questions? Okay. Do I have a motion?
Move the staff recommendation.
Okay.
Item 7.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, we're all excited about item 8 and the improvements underway with the Grand Canalscape project. The project includes extensive bicycle, pedestrian, lighting, and landscaping improvements for several miles along the canal bank from I-17 to the Phoenix-Tempe border east of Sky Harbor Airport. The city was awarded both federal funding as well as aesthetic funding from our very strong partner Salt River Project for work on the Grand Canalscape. Assistant Street Transportation Director Keeney Knutson is here to discuss where we are with the project. Police Commander Anthony Vasquez is also here to discuss the city's approach to crime prevention and response in the canal, not only in the design of the improvements, but also on an ongoing basis. And then finally, we welcome our guest, Jim Duncan from Salt River Project, which leases the Grand Canal from the Federal Bureau of Reclamation. And he'll talk about some of the successes that SRP's seen in other valley cities where investments along the canals continue to make a positive difference in those communities. So Keeney, I'll turn it over to Keeney Knutson.
Thank you, Mario. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. As Mario mentioned, this is a project we're very excited about. It's something that is a large project, one of our largest projects going on right now, and it has some grand goals to go with it being on the Grand Canal. You may have heard that said many times that in the Phoenix metropolitan area, we have more miles of canals than Venice does in Italy. And it's something that I know from the Phoenix standpoint, we've taken advantage as much as we could. And this is a project that hopes to take this recreation corridor, turn it into a recreation corridor, and also a transportation corridor for us, for our residents. So as Mario mentioned, we're always looking for great partners in these types of projects, and Salt River Project has been a great partner with us. The first project we're working on, this project is divided into 2 phases, stretching from Interstate 17 along the Grand Canal all the way to the Tempe border. The first phase you see up here is in sections A and B. And that's when we've partnered right with Salt River Project on the funding for this project, and it's under construction right now. The second project, or phase of this project, is in concert with Salt River Project and through a $10 million grant we got through the Tiger program through the United States Department of Transportation. And through that, as I mentioned, is a 10-mile long segment of the Grand Canal that we're looking to improve. Altogether, this is about a $22 million project. And what I'd kind of wrap this project up in saying is we are looking to use this as a primary as a bicycle and pedestrian corridor. And we get asked a lot to be able to look at, through Complete Streets and through Transportation 2050, of looking to improve those types of facilities for those types of uses, those types of modes. One thing that's unique about this is it's a 10-mile segment that is pretty much off-street the entire 10 miles. That's safer for bicyclists, it's safer for pedestrians, and it's safer for vehicles using those roadways. We're able to incorporate safe crossings through this project, and we have a lot of different elements that we've done to be able to make sure this is a facility, this will be a project that we're proud of at the end. So some more about, we talked about our funding partners and the United States Department of Transportation and Salt River Project. We've also had great partners in the City of Phoenix with our Neighborhood Services Department. We've worked with them a lot on community engagement and neighborhood involvement, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the community and neighborhoods that have been involved in this project. And Jim can probably attest to that this goes back to the 1990s, the desire to do a project like this. APS is a partner as well. Although it's on SRP's managed canal, APS has their electrical facilities going through along this canal, and that's someone we've worked with through all this. And obviously the person to my right here through the police department is somebody we've been working on through design, and also as we get ready to, and when we get ready to turn over this project for operations. So what does the project look like today? I mean, before we started construction, you've essentially got a dirt path along this canal bank. And the reason why the dirt canal or dirt path exists there is because Salt River Project needs it to maintain the canal. And that's its sole purpose. There are plenty of people who do use it for recreation right now, whether it be through bicycling or jogging or walking, but it hasn't been improved for those purposes, and that's the goal of this project. In addition to seeing a dirt path, you also see overgrown vegetation, and a lot of time that vegetation has been planted by adjacent homeowners for various reasons, and sometimes it's natural, it's just grown naturally. But Salt River Project will tell you that their primary purpose of being in this canal is to maintain the canal. So that's something we're concerned with as we look at improving this project, is how we deal with that existing vegetation, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But also you don't see any lighting. You don't see any lighting going through here, so it's really a dusk to dawn type of a use if you're looking for a safe environment to be able to have a recreation activity. And with that overgrown vegetation, it does create those hiding areas or areas where you have restricted sight lines. So something we wanted to make sure we address with this project. So as we go forward, this is a rendering, a little bit of what we see this project looking like when it's complete. Some things that we wanted to make sure is that you understand that we are very much vested in this project and making it successful. As I mentioned before, we have a number of miles of canals throughout the city. If this is a project we can show is successful here in the city of Phoenix, there's opportunities to do something similar with our other canals, to have that similar kind of investment. So from the recreation side, but also the transportation benefits I've already mentioned. But we also think that as what we've seen, and Jim will share this a little bit later, is some of the quality of life benefits of having this kind of an asset in our neighborhood. And like I said, the picture is worth 1,000 words, and we're working our best to make this a reality. But in all this, we've worked closely and we've worked diligently to make sure that what we're putting with this project is something we can maintain, and the operating costs are something that we can handle as well, taking on once this project is complete. So what things have we done? First, wanted to point out the thickened concrete path. As I mentioned, the main reason why this the canal bank exists right now is for maintenance purposes. And SRP, in order to make sure that their vehicles can use this to maintain the canal, but also APS to access their electrical lines, it needs to be a thicker concrete surface. But that's something that's easier for us to maintain, requires less maintenance going on after we've completed it. I'm sorry. Yes,
And with
Madam
the
Chair.
concrete, are you going to use that type that's porous, that lets the rainwater go through?
At this point, Madam Chair, no, we're not planning on using that because one is about the structural aspect of it too. We have not used any of the pervious concrete in structural areas where we've had to have a lot of loading. And so we want to make sure that we didn't create something that was going to be potentially a maintenance concern later on.
I just want to make sure that if we have very thick and large amount of concrete, we're not also increasing heat.
Understood, Madam Chair. Secondarily, the plants we're using, they're low-use water. We have focused on water efficiency, not just because it makes sense, but also because the plants that we'll be planting in here will require less maintenance going on, and which will require less costs to make sure they're maintained. And to keep those plants living, we have a water efficient irrigation system, which is always smart to do, both from a water efficiency standpoint, but also cost of the water that we would have to be able to maintain the landscaping out there. LED lighting. We've done our best to, along the 10-mile path, to have continuous lighting all the way through. We used LED, which has become our city standard now, and to make sure that we have energy efficiency with the use of the electricity there. I will make a mention that there are, because of the space constraints along the canal, some areas were very, very tight, and we've been trying to do our best to fit our multi-use path through there. There's areas, a couple stretches, 2 stretches in particular, where we have not been able to incorporate lighting. But one thing that at least lighting with this project, but one thing we're dedicated from the Street Transportation Department is to make sure that we look for opportunities, creative ways we can incorporate lighting into those areas. And it's 2 primary stretches, one along 19th Avenue to 15th Avenue, and the other one between 24th Street and Thomas. It's a small stretch there as well, but we're working to look for opportunities to add lighting in the future.
Can you have up lighting?
We've looked at different things and we've tried to incorporate different elements, but because of the space constraints, we're right up against some private property homeowners or right up against the edge of the canal. We will be looking for opportunities, though. We know that we want to make sure this is continually lit so we don't create any issues later on for us. So that's something we're going to continue to work on, even though we've got the project out under construction right now. It's something we'll continue to work with staff to evaluate opportunities.
Did you just say it's under construction right now, and you don't know what you're going to do with the lighting?
On the section that's out right there, we have not been able to fit it in, but we're going to. I think that's something we're committed to. Look for opportunities. There may be opportunities where we work with the private adjacent property owners to be able to put lighting along their walls in there, but we have not been able to get in space in there just because of space constraints, because we are so limited between the canal banks and where the edge of the adjacent property owners are.
My understanding is when there were these shreds and it went out into the neighborhood and to the businesses, there were a number of things that were agreed upon on this Grand Canal. And one of it was lighting and one of it was safety. And so I guess I'm hearing that we're not going to do that, or we're going to look for other opportunities to do that. But this was supposed to be part of the plan, and the dollars were part of it. I can't remember the gentleman's name that led this whole process. And actually, this Grand Canal should be finishing now. So there was some delay somewhere, but it was going to move fast and quickly and get done. And I have neighborhoods now calling me specifically on the canal asking, why are we not getting these features when this was told to us and we adopted it originally? When did I first get elected? 2015. So I have some concerns now.
Madam Chair, Vice Mayor Pastor, it is a 10.5-mile segment of of the Grand Canal from I-17 all the way to the Tempe border. We're talking about 19th Avenue, 15th Avenue, a short stretch there, and then a short stretch at 24th Street and Thomas. And those are both areas we're going to continue to look at, and we can bring back a plan to what our plan is to be able to look at to include lighting in those areas. But right now we were not able just because of space constraints. As far as the time delay, I would mention that when our first project that we had was the first one we had mentioned before that we partnered with SRP. That one was delayed about a year in starting. We're going to be finishing up this fall with that project, that first phase project. We did not have funding until the Tiger Grant was made available to us to be able to finish out the rest of the project from I-17 to Tempe. So we never had the full amount budget to be able to do the rest of the project. The first part of the project, yes, it was delayed about a year in starting, but we will be finishing that up this fall. And we expect the second phase of that project, the other 10.5 miles, to be finished up by next spring. And finally, trash collection and landscape maintenance. We will be picking up trash weekly. We don't obviously service the canal right now. It's not our responsibility for either landscape or trash, but that's something we'll be taking on, doing weekly service of trash collection along the canal with a contract staff. We have working with our contractors to do that. And landscape maintenance will be done 3 times a year which is consistent with what we do with our existing right-of-way landscaping along the streets. So when we look at the crime prevention aspects of the project, we've worked with the police department and our designers on design elements to make sure that we're looking at crime prevention through it. I would say that we've used tried and tested design principles, planning principles with like SEPTED in designing our features and our design along the canal path. And we feel confident that we've done our best to work in those kind of elements into the design so we don't create anything that will be encouraging criminal activity along the canal. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Commander Vasquez, who will talk a little bit more about his side once this project is complete.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm Anthony Vasquez of the Mountain View Precinct. Vast majority of the Grand Canal runs through my precinct. It also borders in certain sections with the Desert Horizon Precinct. The police department's primary concern is addressing issues before they grow into anything that we can't quickly address. So what we want to use is our crime analysis research unit to look at our calls for service and the criminal activity occurring not only along the Grand Canal, but also into the neighborhoods. We want probably a buffer and a half mile in each direction to make sure we're capturing everything that's addressing the neighborhoods. The other thing we want to do is we want to make sure our community action officers are in the neighborhoods, talking to our community groups and the neighborhood associations to get that direct feedback back to us as to what's occurring or what could be affecting them. Currently, we're using patrol squads just for the initial construction. Once the project is complete, we'll also use our bike squads that we have out of the Desert Horizon Precinct, where we'll actually be able to get out there in the community a lot more. And we'll use our neighborhood enforcement teams just.
As far as the bike squad, have you thought about putting in other precincts as well? Because I know they do a great job in Sunny Slope, the Desert Horizon, and they do zip along the canals and the alleys. And I'm just wondering, as we improve these canals, is there a thought, not to put you on the spot, but is there a thought in the future at looking at other bike squads?
Here's the nice part about the way we're comprised. Every one of our neighborhood enforcement teams are bicycle certified. We have bikes dedicated at the precincts that we can utilize for that. The bike squad is a little bit different.
It's separate.
Yeah, it is, but we do have that flexibility in the precinct ourselves. Now, we do have 2 neighborhood enforcement teams that we can utilize for that also.
So in knowing that,
Yes.
because I know I fought hard for Desert Horizon Bike Squad to maintain when we were going through our reallocation. But in knowing that the other precincts also have bike squads or bikes, I know we're not in the public safety, but what I know is that we need to update our bikes and our technology for them in order to be more effective and efficient. But that's just a plug to my colleagues here. Just to let them know that I'm aware of that only because of my other, I hit 5 precincts, so I know what's happening in 5 different precincts. And so I'm aware of that.
Vice Mayor Pastor, thank you very much for that.
Did you declare you're a lobbyist?
No.
So the other thing we'll be doing is we'll utilize our resources with Human Services Department and the contracts we have currently with Community Bridges to address and partner for any individuals we might come in contact with who are unsheltered and are starting to congregate in the area. We want to make sure that we're leading with services also with them. And then the final thing with it is we want to make sure during the entire construction period that the police department's receptive to the construction workers out there also. We haven't had any issues thus far, and we'll keep our fingers crossed on that.
Thanks, Commander Vasquez. And I was going to turn it over to Jim Duncan to talk a little bit about the experience SRP has had in similar cities, other cities.
Great, Madam Chair, council members, thank you. These first images that I put up here simply are to illustrate that although this project is new to the city of Phoenix, this type of effort is not new to SRP. We manage 131 miles of canal, and to date, not including this project, other municipalities and some in Phoenix, have constructed over 65 miles of project very much like this one. So we do have experience. Hopefully that will be useful to you it certainly has been useful to your staff. I believe they have done their best in incorporating best practices and have learned from what other communities have done and incorporated those things into the design of this project. So what have we discovered? Generally speaking, and yes, if we could go to this slide, generally what we have found is that these multi-use paths have a general, provide a general improvement to safety in the area. Simply put, you're attracting more of the right kind of people out onto the canal bank. Albeit the canals, as Keeney has mentioned, when we go through design process, I always enjoy the public forum because they're full of ideas and everyone always laments the fact, why do these corridors have to look so much like a utility corridor? Well, they are a utility corridor, but the cities have done a very good job in supplementing this with recreational opportunities. So we have discovered that as these multi-use paths are constructed, that many of the unwanted behaviors tend to disappear. I can't say that it's the silver bullet, that it creates a solution to every problem, but in every single project that I've seen across the valley, from Scottsdale to Chandler to Phoenix, we see a decrease in illegal dumping and trash, homeless camps, vandalism, and general crime. And this is due to the design elements that you've heard discussed today, the introduction of proper vegetation management, lighting, and not to be minimized, of course, police presence. Some of the other communities have, they may just generally access the areas with vehicles. Some communities, Tempe specifically, uses the bike patrols very successfully. The community action officers are very involved. And so generally speaking, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, the improvements are considerable. This picture that you see here, if you can, is very utilitarian. And if you contrast this with the image that you saw before, this is done, the asphalt is for SRP equipment to minimize dust. That gate is there meant to keep vehicles out because we had vehicles in this particular area that were taking shortcuts on the canal. These gates SRP has modified now, if any are needed, because again, what we find is with these recreational trails, very few people are willing to shortcut in their private vehicle on the canal bank when it's loaded up with recreational users, all of them sporting cell phones with cameras. So these gates are going away. This creates the opportunity for police patrols. If gates are needed, they're called a recreational friendly gate, and these gates allow for bike access, equestrian access. But I don't believe there are any of those gates designed in on the recreational path areas, so that will be available for both patrol car and bike patrol access. So with that, that's really the only input I wanted to provide to you, was that generally speaking, we've had a very, very good experience with what these paths do to the surrounding area.
Very good. Any questions?
I have a question
Yes.
regarding the illegal dumping and trash. As the slide previously said, that there will be pickup once a week on our side. Does that include helping SRP with the canals?
No, it
Because
does
a
not.
lot of the carts are dumped in the canal.
The maintenance within the prism of the canal remains solely SRP.
So will SRP go out once a month to look at the carts in the canal? The only reason I know so much about it is because of 24th Street and Baseline, where we have the canal crossing up there. And so that's how I know so much about the carts.
And yes, there are specific parts of the canal that happen to also be close to grocery stores, so there's no surprise that
right.
that's where,
Yeah.
grocery
And so that's
carts,
why I was like,
tend to go in.
Right.
I cannot tell you that SRP patrols every mile of the 131 miles every month. We have multiple crews
Yeah.
that patrol the canal banks and, remove debris, from the canal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a quick question, and I know that the Madam Chair talked a little bit about this, but the heat factor. We're one of 35 cities that are in the running for the Bloomberg grant, and the mayor made an announcement in the State of the City address. It looks like we're going from native soil to concrete. How have we looked at that? Obviously, we're doing a lot to move this canalscape forward, but are there any negative impacts that we should talk about that's going to sort of set us back in what our overall goal is in becoming a heat-ready city?
Madam Chair, Councilman Valenzuela, when we were looking at, the major investment on this canal is obviously the pathway that we're going to be putting in. And we looked at different options there with using asphalt, and that's currently what SRP uses in the majority of it for just their maintenance path. But obviously, that's the color of asphalt has a bigger heat sink and creates more of a heat island effect than the concrete that we're using. So the concrete that we're using, it's obviously white gray concrete. It's gonna attract some heat more so than the surrounding soil, but obviously we want to make sure that this is something that it's ease of maintenance and it's something that people feel comfortable using. So I think we've made a decision that way, not only just to go from asphalt to concrete because of maintenance purposes, but it'll be easier. I mean, on the people using it as well. The temperature that comes off of that as you're using it for recreation purposes or people who may be out there.
Okay, thanks.
Is there another type of concrete that we're aware of that could help us get to our goal of reducing the heat island effect?
As Madam Chair pointed out, the use of pervious concrete is sometimes used. We've used it a little bit in some more pedestrian areas where we don't have to have traffic loading. We've used it for some sidewalk areas or pedestrian areas, but we have not used it for traffic rated areas. I know there was a request. We had a recent project going on, the North Mountain Tower Road project, where we had a request about using pervious concrete, and we had similar concerns there about the long-term maintenance of being able to deal with those kind of heavy truck loading on there. So in that case, those ones do have a little bit better from the heat island perspective, but also from a drainage perspective as well. But we were concerned mainly about the maintenance piece of what we put in there to make sure it doesn't create a maintenance issue for us in the future. But I feel if you're going to choose between asphalt and concrete, this obviously is much better for the heat island issue.
So I'm going to push back on that because it sounds like we don't have a lot of research to know that if the pervious really would, if we could maintain, and I don't know, I'm sure there's some other cities, or can we look at other cities that possibly are using it and look at the maintenance? I'm sure in the construction world or in the even SRP or APS world would know if what's the difference and what is the maintenance life of this. So I'm looking out for the next 20 years. We're going to enter this relationship on the heat island effect. We have certain goals that we need to meet. And as we are planning accordingly right now, it's really looking at, can we start now and put these pieces into play in order to meet our goals? So that's why I'm pushing back.
And I'm going to ask, Shirley, I mean, I know SRP would know the weight of their trucks. I would hope that you're not planning on sending garbage trucks down that.
No, Madam Chair.
So, I mean, if you could take that into consideration too.
Absolutely. We can definitely provide some additional information to the members of the subcommittee about that. I know there is a cost issue related to going from regular concrete to pervious concrete, but we can definitely provide that information to the committee.
Before you pour.
Yes. Well, I said we do have work on going with phase one, but as we look at phase 2, we can definitely provide that information if that's something that we want to change. But we'll definitely provide that information to you. But right now, it's scheduled as concrete.
How far is phase 1 into phase 1? Has it been poured?
This picture is actually
Is the actual-
is phase 1.
And it's, what is that, 15th?
I'm not sure exactly the location of that.
Okay. Because I think they started on 15th. Avenue. But could we just look at that? Okay, thank you.
For what it's worth, I will say that the only other city to experiment with pervious concrete has been the city of Tempe. And they did it only in an area, very limited area of pedestrian nodes in the Papago Park area, not really intended to bear weight. So I don't profess to be the definitive expert in concrete, but because of the weight of maintenance vehicles, albeit infrequent, those of you are probably, most of you familiar with canal dry-up maintenance and the concrete trucks, dump trucks. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, it's considerable weight. And the line trucks required by APS to service their lines. So it is a bit of a catch-22. But
Any question? That was it, Madam Chair.
Any other questions, comments? Well, we thank you very much.
Thanks.
We appreciate it, and we look forward to having you come back and tell us about the progress. Dee Dee?
Wells Fargo's being evacuated right now.
Can help. Okay, I think you can hear me. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee. I was very interested in Vice Mayor Pastor's comment about illegal dumping, and I really would like to propose that the city really look at that, and through the mayor's commission with the neighborhoods, that you would start illegal dumping, not only in the canals, illegal in the alleys, illegal on the streets. It's illegal at the bus stops. Is that the city is growing so much, and we have people coming in and out, and some people care more than others, and those that don't care, it creates a problem. It's an environmental problem, and that's my concern too. Even the fact that a person doesn't curb their cigarette butt after they smoke, maybe in a little pill box or something, because those toxins go into the water. So this is what I propose, and having experience with Salt River Project in the fact that there was an aperture at 40th and Camelback that once it got clogged, it created myriad of problems where the police had to come in on when there was a flash flood and redirect all of the traffic. The basements of some major buildings got flooded, and like this. And what it was, I had a little shovel, and as a volunteer in the community, I went out and I dug that out, and we didn't have the problem, and I used to watch it. So this is what I'm stating there. We can't reward enough the work of volunteers. You see it with the navigators at the airport and in some other areas, you know. So you start this volunteer so people can see when these the canals become full with the carts, the different things where the bus stops are. I had proposed to the city years ago that we'd have citizens for cleaner bus stops, that you have time there waiting for a bus stop. You can put on a little like cover up, glove or something like that if you carry one, which I used to, disposable ones. Or just pick it up, and use some sanitizer. And what happens is that the people that throw things down typically don't throw down while you're picking up. And it could say Citizens for Cleaner Bus Stops. Thank you.
I think item 9 with this is update on South Mountain Freeway.
Members of the subcommittee, I'm Tom Remus with the City Manager's Office, and I'm here this morning to provide you an update on the South Mountain Freeway construction. I'll be showing you some visuals of the work that's occurred over the past year. First, I'd like to start off to talk about how the City of Phoenix is working collaboratively with ADOT on this project. It is an ADOT project, but we do have staff embedded with ADOT. We have Maisha Harris from the Street Transportation Department, Mark Thornton from Planning and Development, and myself, and we're all actually out at the ADOT facilities as this work is progressing. In addition to that, we have a number of city departments that have assigned staff liaisons to this project because it is such a large program for the city of Phoenix. So how did we get here? Well, starting back in the late 70s, early 80s, we started talking about Prop 300. And Proposition 300 is a half-cent sales tax that had money included in it for the creation of the South Mountain Freeway. Back in 2004, we had Prop 400, and that also had money attached to it for the South Mountain Freeway. But as you can see through the timeline up above, while the state went through the environmental assessment, the design concept review, we did have a downturn in the economy in 1996, and there wasn't enough funding to move forward with it. So then in 2001, we went through the process again and had the federal assessment, or the environmental impact statement. We had draft environmental impact statements. And at that time, we had more than 6,000 people come forward to provide comments on this project. So it brings us to 2017, 2018, a long period where we finally started construction. We had construction activity start in 2016, but while that was happening, we had a couple of lawsuits taking place. So in August of 2016, the U.S. District Court dismissed the challenges that were brought forward. Those were appealed to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and those challenges were dismissed finally in January of 2018. So that brings us to today. As a quick reminder, the South Mountain Freeway begins at the I-10 Papago Freeway near 59th Avenue and progresses south across the Salt River through Levine and around South Mountain to Pecos Road in Ahwatukee, and then it finally connects the I-10 Maricopa Freeway at the existing I-10 Santan Freeway interchange. Now, this project is the largest freeway project in Arizona history. It is entirely within the city of Phoenix. And as ADOT moved forward with this, they did something novel for them. They started a public-private partnership. Now, this was beneficial for the project because it allowed for the project to be accelerated to a 3-year completion versus a 6-year completion. It added some efficiency and cost savings because of the competitive procurement process. So this is something that I think we'll start seeing the City of Phoenix and other organizations move to when you do these public-private partnerships. And I think this is a good learning lesson for us at the City of Phoenix. South Mountain Freeway. This is an illustration that kind of gives you a better idea of where it starts and finishes. It is 22 miles of freeway. There are 40 bridges, 13 traffic interchanges. We have a shared use path in Ahwatukee, that is the old Pecos Road. The entire project is going to have rubberized asphalt. And then we also do have a pedestrian bridge that is just north of Broadway that connects the Rio del Rey community and has been something that the school districts have worked with us on. For the roadway design, it's going to be the ultimate build-out. It's not going to be like other freeways in the region that you see that we come back, add additional HOV lanes, or put in other features. This is being built to completion. I should mention, as part of the public-private partnership, the organization that did receive the bid is called Construct 202 Partners, and they are going to be responsible for the maintenance of this facility for 30 years. So that goes back to the project itself, that they're making sure that they're doing it right because they have to take care of it for 30 years. They're not just turning it over to the state. Aesthetics. I think this is something interesting. I might be a little out of my depth talking about arts, but I'll give it my best shot. I've learned some interesting terms as we go along here. But there are 5 character areas within the freeway. And what ADOT had done is that they had worked with the Paolo Solari Casanti Foundation and looked at designs that tie into some of the Frank Lloyd Wright influences. The 5 character areas, starting at the bottom right-hand corner and moving north up to the I-10 freeway. They include, as part of it, using the city's approved plant palettes, if there are plant palettes approved for the planting villages. There is going to be 39 million square feet of planted areas, And just as a reminder, I know the councilwoman, the chair knows, the city of Phoenix is responsible for the cost of water for landscaping and irrigation along all freeways within the city of Phoenix. Those costs right now are maintenance, our streets maintenance has allocated $1.5 million for landscaping in all of the freeways. And so we will be looking at that as this project moves forward.
Cost estimate on what this will be?
Madam Chair, I don't have that for you at this time, but I'm happy to come back to you after the presentation with that. So just going through some of the aesthetic treatments as we move through. So starting in Ahwatukee, we have the Ocotillo settlement pattern. Ocotillo is spelled correctly. That's something I think everyone picks up on. This character area is named for the Ocotillo settlement that was built by Frank Lloyd Wright in 1929. Around 32nd Street, Frank Lloyd Wright actually set up an encampment there. You could see a picture of it on the far right-hand side, and that was going to be the project headquarters, the San Marcos in the desert. It was a resort project for Dr. Alexander Chandler. With the downturn in the economy, that didn't happen. But what the creative team at ADOT tried to do was mimic some of the features of that, and mimic some of the features of the mountain in the design for this specific section. So if you look at the top picture where you see a fin coming up, that's to reflect some of the structure of the Frank Lloyd Wright building. The second section, as you move through, is called the Cholla Ocotillo pattern. And what they've tried to do here is mimic some of the desert plants in the area, specifically the Cholla and Ocotillo skeletons. In this area, you're going to have more of a natural desert landscape. Next, as you start moving through the mountain and up towards the Salt River, it's called the riverbank pattern. It's an abstraction of water and earth, as you could see with the bottom picture, looking at some of the riverbanks. It also takes some of the design styles of Paulo Solari and incorporates them. And that basin that you see off to the side has some of his design elements there. Moving further north, you have the leaf portal pattern. Again, this is Paulo Solari's design elements, trying to reflect some of the more agricultural features of that area, adding a little bit more color. This is something that we haven't seen before with ADOT. They tried to have some different color palettes in each of the 5 sections, just to show a little bit of difference, knowing that our community has differences in those areas. And then finally, as you connect back with the Interstate 10, they have what they're calling the Mountain Urban Link pattern. And as you see at the picture on the far right, it's to show the 2 freeways connecting together with the yellow and the orange red. And so that's what they're trying to convey in this particular section. So here we are. 1 year in, we're about 40% complete. We've spent, ADOT has spent approximately $344 million. This project employs over 700 individuals. There are more than 375 craft workers that include the laborers, carpenters, and equipment operators that have all been hired locally through the labor unions. More than 40% of the budget, as I mentioned, has been completed, and there are 128 DBE firms included on the project at this time. So there's been a lot of dirt moving. This project has moved approximately 3.6 million cubic yards of dirt. You know, that's enough dirt to fill the University of Phoenix Stadium 13 times.
Where'd they put it?
So as you're building the ramp features, and then in one of the other pictures that I'll show you coming up, you'll see where we had to fill in a sand and mining operation pit. So there's a lot of the dirt that it stays within the project limits as you're building ramps, as you're building up embankments. All of those take dirt. So it's been very unique how they've been able to move their crews from section to section along the freeway to make sure that they're working nonstop to get this project done. This slide also mentions that there's $9.2 million of rebar being used. What the project has tried to do is, as they've done demolition on the project and taking down some of the buildings that have been in the path, they've taken that steel, taken it to a local manufacturer to create the rebar to be used on this project. So there is some attempt to reuse and incorporate as part of this. So, starting at the north, and we'll move south into Ahwatukee, but this is some vantage points of where we were last January to where we are now. As you can see at the top of the picture is the I-10 freeway running east-west. So all of these buildings had to be moved, taken out, and incorporated as part of the freeway. On your right, you see that there is the new bridge going over Roosevelt, and then that's the ramp that is going to be tying in for the North 202 going westbound on I-10. Some work that you might have noticed going on I-10, there are a number of ramps that will be going in. My next slide will give you a little bit more of a visual on that. But in order to make it work, some of the on and off ramps off of I-10 are going to have to go away, and we're going to put in access roads to move traffic back and forth because of the tie-ins. So right now, the I-10 westbound off-ramp at 59th Avenue has been permanently closed. And those other red ramps will eventually be taken out, and those blue and orange east-west moving lines will become the new access roads there. This is what it'll look like when it's finished. You're going to have a lot of direct access ramps that will be able to move people easier on and off the I-10. Now, as we move south off the I-10, some of the work that needs to be done is putting in bridges. And so one of the bridges is going in over the Roosevelt Irrigation District Canal. So on the left-hand side, you can see the canal. Right-hand side, you can see where the bridge structures have gone in. This is where a lot of the dirt has gone. So this is the bridge crossing at the Salt River, which is something that I know the neighborhood residents are excited about, to have a new way to cross the Salt River, especially when there's flooding and they can't get across on those low water crossings. If you look at the picture on the left-hand side, you could see the sand and gravel operation was there. That operation is still working, but some of it has been taken by ADOT. And so all of that had to be filled in with dirt to bring it up to the level for the freeway to sit in. So that was considerable work done. On the right-hand picture, you could see the new bridge structures going across the Salt River bed. So excited about that. Southern Avenue, it's been closed for a while now. It's going to be open next Monday. But any of you who have driven Southern Avenue out there, this is a significant change. The freeway will be going over the top of Southern, and they're finishing up the asphalt work on the southern side of Southern Avenue. Pecos Road, there has to be controlled rock blasting. In order to put the freeway on the alignment of Pecos Road, you still need a little bit more width. So on the January 2017 picture, you could see how the foothills gradually move into Pecos Road, but you need more width there. So the picture on your right-hand side shows the rock that's been shaved down and blasted down. ADOT's using more of a natural method for this project. It's more of scraping and blasting to give you more of a natural look versus maybe some of the old blasting that you've seen done on other parts of the Phoenix freeway system, where you see shafts drilled in, and you could still see some of those features. It doesn't look as natural as this would. This is interesting. On your right-hand side of both photos is our 40th Street Park and Ride in Ahwatukee, working with the Transit Department and ADOT. We have been able to address some of the structures there, moving traffic in and out. We will actually have a direct access lane coming off the South Mountain Freeway into the Park and Ride, as well as the ability to exit by the same manner. We're also putting in a new traffic signal at Cottonwood on 40th Street, which the residents there are very happy with because that was their only way in and out of their HOA. So while it improves the Park and Ride facility, it also improves the neighborhood. You can see here the new bridge going over the top of 40th Street there. And then sound walls. ADOT does have their sound wall program. If you're within a certain distance of the freeway, you automatically have sound walls put in. One of the areas that you could see the sound walls going up right now is along Pecos Road. Hard to visualize there, but a lot of masonry work going in. Two new items happening on the freeway program that you'll start to hear about. There's been some interest from the Ahwatukee community, some members of the Ahwatukee community, about adding in a new 32nd Street interchange. That hasn't been planned as part of this freeway. But Federal Highway and ADOT, now that the lawsuits have completed, are open to looking at that idea. So they will be setting up meetings with the community to talk about it. The freeway has been designed so that a new traffic interchange can go in without tearing up features that they've already put in. It'll be a tight diamond interchange. The other new interchange is potentially at Ivanhoe Street. This has been requested by the Gila River Indian community. It's actually would be a benefit for everyone along the route. Right now, the closest southern interchange would be at Estrella Drive. By adding another interchange at Ivanhoe, it would allow another way on and off the freeway. It would allow you to go directly into the Gila River Indian community, and also a better access to 51st Avenue. With that, I'll leave up on the screen for you all the different ways for folks to track what's happening with the freeway. The City of Phoenix has pushed hard with ADOT to get creative. We've had them create their first project-specific Facebook page. We send out information through the City of Phoenix on our next door. There's Instagram, there's listservs, there's all sorts of ways to get information. If you look at the hotline number, there is someone assigned to answer that 24 hours a day, both English and Spanish. So whatever you need, we can make sure you have the answer. And with that, I'm open to any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
I have one question.
Vice Mayor?
Pedestrian bridge.
Pedestrian bridge.
It's a lot of miles around that area. Where the pedestrian bridge is located?
So we have traffic interchanges that we are going to have bike friendly. So we are working with ADOT to make sure that there's enough width so that when we have folks going across the traffic interchanges, they could go safely with their bicycles and pedestrians. The one pedestrian bridge that is slated for the project is just north of Broadway. That's an area that we have a number of schools in that were intersected by the freeway. And the developments there, the Rio del Rey community, was specifically planned with a gap between the two subdivisions, knowing that the freeway was going in. So this allows them access back and forth. That's the only pedestrian bridge set in the project.
Interesting.
Any other questions, comments? Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
We look forward to you coming back this fall and telling us how close we are.
Okay.
Next is call to the public. Do we have any cards? We do not. Does anyone have any future agenda items they would like to have? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
On the Grand Canal,